Welcome to the GenXR podcast. Another exciting day with Hank and Doug as we talk about stuff and stuff.
Yes.
Isn't that all right, Hank?
Yes.
What kind of stuff are we going to be talking about today?
Totally somber stuff.
Somber stuff today. We've got somber stuff coming your way. Woohoo! We do have a little ADD, little ADHD, and maybe a little sensory deprivation. What? Deprivation? Anyway, I don't know what deprivation.
Yeah, I think it's the other way around. I think it's sensory issues.
Integration.
Yeah.
Sensory
overstimulation.
Now, were you one of those guys that that cut the tags out of the backs of your shirt and your socks, the little thing on the pinky part of your toe that always jams up, and you got to like.
Yeah, I went through that phase. Yeah. It's not like an all the time thing, but yeah, I remember being a kid and that happening every once in a while.
Well, so was it? Did it make you lose focus?
Oh, well, yeah, there were certainly lots of things that would help me lose focus. Among them, TV.
TV. Well, yeah. I'm talking about like when you're in school and the teacher's like, all right, let's pay attention. You're like, oh, and you're like, oh, this thing's bothering me. Well, what did she say? What did she say? That kind of thing.
Yeah, there was some of that. I didn't not quite so drastic or dramatic, but and I was always way too nice and polite. I didn't want to make waves, and so I would usually sit through that kind of discomfort. My issue was usually more emotionally oriented. Like if I got called out for something, I'd be like, oh God, that's horrible.
So I've been called out. The teacher's like, okay, anyone who would like to contribute to yesterday's homework, Hank, what did you think about how General Lee led his troops through and you're gone?
Yeah. Usually it was more disciplinary issues, though. It was like, Hank, your shoes untied.
And you're just, because what was it? You felt like it was everybody's attention was on you and you were embarrassed?
Right. Yeah. Because I'm so, oversensitive and it's so attuned to what's going on in the room and noticing people's, their lapels have got stains on them and stuff like that. I mean, I would be like, well, certainly everybody notices, flaws with me. So,
and you would assume that everybody else is thinking and seeing the same thing.
Yeah, right.
And so that's what you do. You think this is the way I see the world, and everybody else probably sees the world the same way.
Yeah, it makes you extremely self-conscious and extremely overly self-aware.
So we the topic of today is ADHD. D.
Yeah, it's subtle. It's very subtle. The subtle difference between the two. There's ADD and ADHD. I mean, ADD is I guess technically it's sort of an all encompassing. It's a little more all encompassing. If you have if you have ADD, you don't necessarily struggle with ADHD. ADHD is just simply, well, it's like what I was talking about. So, Doug, you might have been ADHD. Like you would like.
Why would you say that?
You would actually like jump up and react. And
why would you think?
Get this tag off of me. Yeah,
it's true.
Right?
It's true.
Whereas I would be like, okay, it's bothering me and it's distracting me, but I'm not gonna.
I see.
I'm just gonna keep doing my, might put my head down on the desk or whatever.
The hyperactivity. So you weren't like shaking your leg and your leg wasn't shaking and stuff.
Not all the time.
Because that's like the sign of. I'm just, there's so much going on in my brain and I gotta.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah, I would do that. My pencils would be worn all the way down to the.
I used to bite, where people would bite their nails. I bit right in the little creases of my hands. And since then, you can even kind of see that they're a little whiter because that actually scarred them. Like this one right there.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're usually they kind of crease and fold little creases in there.
Yeah.
I've got like this big fat one in there because I would just bite on it all the time.
Yeah.
And as a kid growing up, I didn't learn very fast. I kind of had, they thought I had dyslexia.
Okay.
And maybe I did. I don't know, like the D's or B's and the L's or whatever. I just couldn't see it. So they took me to a computer school for tutoring. And this is back when there was the green little text on a black screen, and they would like, a scroll of text would come by, and then it would go away, and the next scroll of text to improve my comprehension and speed of reading.
Yes, I did the exact same thing.
Did you?
Yes, they called it, this clinic called it speed reading.
Speed reading.
Yeah, they actually called it speed reading because I was finding that I was having that dilemma. I was having the dilemma of reading something and then like going,
what the hell did I just see? What is it? I don't know what I read
back.
good. All the words came out right.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't really know what.
I recognized the words.
You
They're
too,
all in the right
huh?
order. Yeah.
It was comprehension. They
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
Doug has a difficult time comprehending what he's reading.
Yes.
And so it would take me 2-3 times as long to do homework than anybody else. And it just pissed me off that like, oh, I did my English and history. It's all good. And I'm like, you're kidding me. That was like half hour.
Right. And
I'm still going, okay. And flashcards and just all that stuff that you'd have to do.
Yeah. I enjoyed the books that I read for the creativity, on a creative level.
When you read them when you read them to yourself and nobody's around, you can kind of get into it.
Right. Yes.
But when you read it out loud,
or if I'm having to sit in a room and read,
reading put me to sleep. Actually,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would read
Yeah,
I'm like, I got to
sleep.
read all this whole chapter, and I'm reading it, and I'm like,
And I knew people. I knew other kids who were like, particularly the young ladies. They would be like, "Oh, I just love this book," and how can you fall asleep? It got so exciting there at the end. And I'm like, I never made it.
I don't get it. Well, then try to have content that you're supposed to read that you just don't really care about at all.
Yeah,
you're like,
right. That was 10
Santa
times
Ana,
as bad.
Texas history, and I'm like, oh my god. And so I made D's, and back when you had a D. And then, I actually became ineligible. I was really good at playing the trumpet. For those of you who saw my tribute on Facebook or LinkedIn, on Memorial Day, I stood out on my balcony and whipped out my trumpet that I dusted off the trumpet, hadn't played it.
Well, good for you. Yeah.
And did the taps.
Yeah, my father he played the trumpet also.
Did he?
Yeah, he was a serviceman. Yeah.
So that was my thing, music. And so the band director, Charles Fork, God rest his soul, was a roommate of Doc Severinsen when he was in college.
Okay, all right.
So when Doc made it big on the Tonight Show, he every year would do a concert with the Plano Wildcat Band, and I was up to be doing a duet with Doc. I was like one of the 2 or 3 people that were going to be able to do a duet with Doc.
Yeah.
Womp, womp, womp. I did not pass all my grades, so therefore I was ineligible and had to sit in the audience and watch another guy do a duet with Doc. So I was very distraught, and my mother wrote a scathing letter to the Plano school district and said, I can't not believe this. My son struggles in school, and the one thing he's good at, and you take that away from him. I am appalled, and I will...
Yeah.
And so that didn't make a difference. You don't pass, you don't play.
Yeah.
So, and all that had to do, I didn't realize at the time, I think I had some issues.
Yeah.
I might have been on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Might have been a little ADD, a little ADHD, a little anxiety, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just rolled with it. There was no, and back then, and even in grade school, I had this one friend whose name was John, and in PE, we were sitting along the line doing all the crap they make you do with some spider where you kick the ball when you're, and he said, I got to go to the doctor. I'll be right back. And so they pulled him out, and he came back, and I go, where'd you go? He's like, I guess I'm doctor says I'm hyperactive, so they put me on some medicine, and it was Ritalin.
Yeah.
And so I kind of was like, oh, that's weird. Oh, well. Anyway, but did you, so I have ADHD.
Okay.
And you have ADHD or ADD.
It's more closely categorized as ADD. So ADD is sort of an overarching category, right? And so for ADD, there's lots of what they call comorbid issues that you can have with it. For example, my son is dysgraphic, which means that it actually pains him to handwrite things or to draw.
Interesting.
Okay, so he struggled in not so much in art class because it's kind of subjective anyway, but he struggled in writing in writing class when he would have to write something.
Okay.
He's struggled with languages, so I don't know if there's necessarily a connection there, but he is also on the autism spectrum, right? But he's very sociable, right? So he won't necessarily insert himself into social situations. However, once we get to talking with him about something, if he's comfortable in his situation, if there's low level of anxiety about him meeting somebody or talking to somebody, he does okay. And he's done just enough okay that he's been able to go go through high school and be able to function well and graduate. I mean, he graduated to high school and he's got lots of friends. You know.
What age did that really become apparent?
Well, okay, so when he was wee little and he was 3 or 4, there were some things where he wasn't catching on quite fast enough, for whatever the norm was. But as far as actual physical health went, he would go to his checkups and stuff, and the pediatrician said he was fine, right? So he was following all the normal growth patterns in that regard. But there were some things that he would get very upset about, very anxious about, and he would have a meltdown. And
So the reason I asked that, what age? Because I noticed a change in my son once he got his vaccinations.
Okay. Well,
It was like, who is this kid? And it was that apparent, and I'm like, am I the only one who's seeing this?
Well, he had vaccinations when he was a baby, though, right?
Yeah, but then there's that when they're old enough, they have to be a certain age to get it, and this was like, I don't know, and I remember the nurse saying that this is a new kind of, it covers lots of stuff now.
Yeah,
it covers this and that and this, and we're like, oh,
that might be a case of correlation and not causation.
Then maybe I'm just because that is a topic, and I think I heard it. Robert De Niro's talking about it, and I'm like, So maybe it's just something that I noticed, and it could be a coincidence for all I know.
Yeah, the problems that he had really. I mean, they were always there. It's just that they presented themselves in particular situations in which maturity was more required. Mm-hmm. And so when we enrolled him at a different private school, he changed private schools from 3rd to 4th grade. Our 3rd grade teacher said, he's got something going on here. You might want to have him checked out. So then when he went to this other private school in 4th grade, he just would have meltdowns all the time because it was a different situation. He was in a completely different world.
It was we call them transitions.
Yes. He could not transition to save his life. Yeah. Now, if you got him calmed down, you could have put him, worked with him a little bit. I even kind of what's the word? Conspiracy theory or attack the teachers a little bit at this particular private school, a little bit, because I'm like, I'm an educator myself, and I'm like, why didn't you just work with him a little more? Why couldn't you have done this? Or if you had done this or this, you wouldn't have this problem. But doing that every day, and since it's a private school, they've got a different set of standards. We're like, fine, we'll pull it.
Yeah,
whatever.
public schools
it's just
are not going to. You're going to be a number. Your kid's going to. I'm sorry, we can't individualize nearly as much. We took him to a private school, and like, can he chew gum? Oh yeah, he can chew gum in here because they kind of. I don't want to say they're private. They accept some people that are on the spectrum. Some are not. Some are.
Well, yes. This is the dilemma: is that you have certain private schools that have very high standards, and then the public schools don't. Their problem is that they don't always implement the standards. They have a big set of them. There's a huge laundry list of standards that the students have to follow.
Yeah.
But then did the teachers follow them? There's no way of knowing. There's really no way of knowing. So that's why we opted for private school. We went to a different private school for him, for Thunder, and he did a little bit better there. And then eventually, when he was a sophomore in high school, by the time he reached his sophomore year, we moved him to another private school, and he really thrived there. So
isn't that great to see them, like, as a parent, you want the best for your kid, and you're like, it's a bold move, but we're gonna have to take him, move him here, and it's another adjustment to get used to. But when he gets into that spot where he's actually learning and he's liking it and he's meeting friends and his self-confidence is up, it's like, oh, thank God.
Yes, exactly. And you said a key thing there. You said we did something very unconventional. Some parents might have said, we're just going to keep him in this school and make him stick it out.
That's what happened to me.
Me too. But with Thunder, we moved him around, shifted when we thought we should. We followed our instincts, went against conventional wisdom. Sometimes you get lots of advice.
Yeah,
I mean, there's always advice out there for ADD and what to do with your student or with your ADD kid. And
were you one of those that when they would say, "Oh, he's definitely going to get on medication," and your first instinct, like us, we're like, we're not those kind of parents that just throw our kids on Ritalin, and we were very like, no. And then we started going, oh crap, this is really getting bad here. He's really struggling here. And then it became sad. I mean, you draw a picture of himself with the word loser and a tear coming down his face. And as a parent, you're just crushed.
Yeah.
That's how he thinks of him. So, so we started to hear from some doctors, some professionals that said, look, if you've got high blood pressure, you got to get on medication and bring it down, or you have to do something. There are medications. If you've got, diabetes, you take some medicine, and your son has got some misfiring in his brain, and there is medication out there that will improve his quality of life beyond your imagination if you get him on the right medication. And we're like, okay, here we go.
Well, that's why I wanted to come here today and talk about that journey that Thunder had. So when it was discovered that he does have he is on the autism spectrum. He's even got a little bit of Asperger's, but he's
that's what they said about Weston too. Crazy, isn't it? Go ahead.
Yeah, dysgraphia. And dysgraphia is very difficult you can't treat it. Really, the treatment is that you type. You get the student a keyboard, you get the kid a keyboard. So that's something that's not really very very fixable. So after we started doing that stuff, he was homeschooled for 3 years. Right.
Okay.
Implementing some of these things and some of these suggestions to try to get him focused on gross motor skills, fine motor skills, social situations, bringing his maturity level up. So he went to this private school. It was a private school called the Key School in Fort Worth. And he went there for 3 years, and I actually taught him for 2 years. I taught at the school for 2 of those years.
And that was okay? You dad teaching your son?
Yeah. Oh, in fact, I got a great story. I would drive him to school, of course, and just to give you some idea how well he wrapped his head around the situation, that I was an educator and dad too. We would walk in, and he would walk into my room. My room would be empty. I'd open the door or whatever and turn on the light and walk in the room, and he would step in the room behind me, and he would say, "All right, Dad, I'll see you later." "Oh, hello, Mr. DeMond."
You're kidding.
No, and he would.
He literally was able to go, "Oh, you're not my dad now.
Yeah.
You're my teacher."
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. Now, he would give me a hard time sometimes, but I don't suspect that it was any more difficult of a hard time that he would give me than to any other teacher. One of the things, there's a couple of things that happened. There's a couple of things that we did that I think mitigated his situation and his ability to cope. See, the difference between Austin and myself is that I was an only child. I didn't, for all practical purposes, that I can explain later, but
That's weird.
For all practical purposes, I was an only child. I was the only child in the house.
Okay.
And a lot of the issues that I would have that would circulate in my head coming home from school, I would have to resolve on my own. And my father was military, and so he was, extremely strict and extremely disciplined, particularly when it came to things like grades and performing at school. So I just worked out mechanisms in my head and went back to school every day and tried to enjoy myself and enjoyed the social interaction and stuff. So that was the other thing, is that I really thrived on social interaction because at home I had none. Right. So I was left a lot to my own imaginations and stuff when I got home. But Austin, he had a little brother, lots of input, really bothered him. He would get anxious, whether it was positive or negative input. And so, his mom, actually, got this notion to take him on a long hike. He seemed to do pretty well. He seemed to enjoy hiking, and there's something about the gross motor skills, the repetitive action of hiking.
Where did you guys hike?
She took him, just the two of them, to England. They walked across.
Now, that's a hell of a hike.
Yeah.
I mean, starting from here in Texas and walking all the way to England. That's incredible. I knew this was going to be a great story, but I had no idea. I mean, you went through, there's bodies of water.
They got an iceberg.
All right. Sorry about that. I had to throw it in there. So she flew him.
English teacher, I should know better. But
Right.
they flew across. They went to London and then took a bus or something to one coast, to the Atlantic coast, and then they walked to the 200 miles. All the way to the other side of England. It was the skinny part of England, granted, but still, I mean, it's 200 miles, and he got to meet people along the way. They learned survival skills, because there were a couple times they got lost. And
was this during the summer or during?
Right. Yeah. He did it in the summer. It was the summer after he had done 3 years of homeschooling, and this was just kind of capping off the homeschooling experience. So then he went to Key School for 3 years. Worked with, interacted with kids a lot like him, right? Because it's a school specifically designed for students with dyslexia, ADHD, and learning challenges. And then we thought, well, we'll pull him from there and we'll enroll him in another school. And he enrolled at Grace Preparatory, which is a Christian school. In Arlington, and that was where I was saying he was making lots of friends. It seemed to be a lot of like-minded people there, people that really appreciated him for who he was.
At what grade again was it?
10th grade.
10th grade. Sorry about that.
So he spent 3 years there. The other thing that I was going to mention, and we can talk a little bit more about it, we're going to elaborate a little bit more on the science behind it later in the program. But the other thing I was going to mention was that he got biofeedback therapy. You talked about the medication thing, and the medication. I don't remember what the name of the medication was that he took initially. He took one. Doctor gave him one, and I'll also tell you, that I was not on medication at this time, and I thought, oh no, no way in hell he's going to take meds. I went through school. I went through public school and didn't take a single med. Didn't even have caffeine, and
I turned out okay.
Yes, I know. I said, and I turned out fine. I guess I could have.
Yes, I had the same.
I could have used something, I guess.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to not have so much anxiety, and especially at home. Really, I mean, school was actually a welcome. I think that's why I became a teacher, is because school was actually a welcome environment for me, because there was so much stimulation and social interaction and learning. The whole learning thing was fun to me.
So when you did you take a look in the mirror and go, does the apple fall? The apple might not fall too far from the tree.
Well, okay. I said to my wife, I said, you know what? If he's going to take this stuff, I'm going to take it to see what it's doing.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to give him something that I wouldn't take myself.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So the first medication, the first day, oh my goodness, it was like he was on. I mean, it was speed.
Really?
I mean, it was just. It had to have been some kind of amphetamine that was just. Whoa. I mean, no.
Okay.
No, and Mom agreed too. I mean, she didn't fight me on that at all, because so anyway. But the next thing, I believe it was Vyvanse, and so
I've been on that, so I'm familiar.
Yeah. So he took that, and for a year. I took it for a year, and then we moved over to Strattera.
Okay.
And I can't. I don't know. It's not an amphetamine. It's not a stimulant.
Not a controlled substance.
It's not a DNA altering thing either. But I don't know. But it does some kind of altering, right, to certain patterns or to certain chemicals in your brain, and so it improves processing and it improves anxiety.
Okay.
The thing about it though, and
so there was an anxiety component in Strattera that wasn't in Vyvanse.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I don't know the science behind Strattera. It's been explained to me a couple of times by the doctor.
Because there is. I mean, I was explained that some people take. I'm trying to think of the name of the medicine I was on. One was for anxiety, and one was for ADD. But one of the ADD meds said also you might experience some increased peacefulness or less anxiety, and it I don't know if I could function without my medicine. I mean, when I don't take it, it's very hard for me to. Now, I don't know if it's a withdrawal thing, where it'll take some time to like wean off of it, and then you start to learn how to cope and do things on your own. But right now, it's my safety net 100%.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I went through that. I went through that with Strattera. In fact, we went traveling one time, and I ran out, and I was like, "Oh, geez, we got to get to a CVS and figure out how to get some of this." Now, I mean, it's not like heroin, mind you. However, the thing about Strattera is that it's one of those things that builds up in your system, right?
Yeah, it's not an instant.
Yeah, you can't just go right off of it. You have to wean yourself on it, and you have to wean yourself off of it. And again, I don't know what the science is on that. So
both of you are on Strattera.
We were on it for I was on it for roughly 4 years, I think, both of us. And so he went off of it first, and it was because he started doing the biofeedback therapy. Okay. And the biofeedback therapy was working just well enough. The trip to England worked well enough. It helped him improve his motor skills, his confidence level. I mean, it was a brilliant move. I mean, lots of heat. My wife took a little bit of heat from certain members of the family, like, "What are you doing, taking him over there? That's not a completely safe trip. What are you spending all that money for?"
Yeah, when you're a parent, though, nobody knows more about what you should do than you do because you're living it in and day out.
Exactly.
It's easy to sit on the sidelines and to say, "What are you doing?" And you have to just kind of push that away and go, I'm doing what I feel is in my gut. And it sounds like your wife did that.
Yeah. So we talked about it, and we figured, since the summer's coming up, we're going to wean him off of it and see what happens. And he went off of it.
Biofeedback,
Well, he went off of the Stratera. Okay. So between the biofeedback and the trip to England, we felt the Stratera was not.
You didn't need it anymore.
Didn't need it anymore. And so about a year later, I went through the biofeedback therapy.
Okay.
And I similarly weaned off of the Stratera. I discovered, this is interesting, I discovered because as part of the biofeedback program with Rusty, and we'll talk a little bit about more, he does he has you do a scan, right? He does you go to some other clinic, I think, and they do a scan so that they could see what
brain scan.
Yeah, so they can see what regions of your brain are firing off a whole bunch of synapses and which ones of them are kind of,
Do you have to interact with, like, are you just laying there going, or is your brain stimulated by certain things and then they monitor it?
They do. Actually, he did do it in the clinic. I'm sorry about that. So he did do it in the clinic. They put a cap on you. The receptors will connect to certain parts of your brain, and you follow something on a screen.
Okay.
Right. Or you stare at a certain spot on the screen for a certain period of time, and then it helps to determine, whether or not you're focusing. Well, I actually had one region of my brain that showed an element of signs of depression. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. But anyway, so then since Austin was so successful going off of the meds, I said, you know what, I think I should go off of them now also. And
cold turkey?
Well, no, I followed the doctor's advice, and took a little bit less each day. But I'll tell you though, a funny story. I was on day 2 of going off of it, reducing the amounts, and for whatever, it was about lunchtime, maybe a little bit earlier than lunchtime. I said, you know what, I'm going to cut out of work here and go get something to eat. And I remember suddenly just being in some part of South Irving, and like, how did I end up here?
Just your mind kind of wandered while you're driving?
I think so. I think it was just, there was just certain synapses were trying to find other areas of my brain and it was just occupying my, certain areas of my brain, and I kind of zoned out, which, being ADD, you get used to being zoned out, but this was a little different kind of zoning out. Sure. And I called my wife and I said, I don't mean to be panicky or anything, but I don't remember the last 20 minutes of
I've lost time, honey. I've lost time. In the movies when they say you've lost time? Yeah. I lost time. I think aliens may have taken me up and put me back, and maybe.
Well, she was very comforting. She said, no, and the Austin went through the same thing. It's normal. This is what happens. So, so anyway, I've been off of meds now for about 5 years.
5 years, and this biofeedback is kind of where it seems like you're an advocate. Both your son and you have gone through that, and it sounds like it's probably something that's not covered by medical insurance.
No, it's not to my knowledge anyway.
Yeah, and it's probably pretty pricey.
Yeah,
but when you think of quality of life, what dollar value do you put on your life and your sanity?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And that's something that I think is interesting. We will talk about more about this later. But what's it like living with somebody like you who's screwed up in the brain as a spouse?
Well, okay, so I mentioned that a couple of things. I mentioned that for all practical purposes, I was an only child, so I could always escape. I could always escape the anxiety. I could always draw or doodle or write poems or whatever. But when you get married, you don't really have that opportunity, and when you have kids, you don't really have that opportunity.
You're forced.
When you have a job, you
yes,
don't really have that.
That's true. The job's a whole other thing. You're forced to persevere through it, push through it. You can't escape and doodle.
Yeah, you're forced to interact. And of course, anytime that you have a family and have kids, there's going to be stimulation and threats, anxiety, threats to your general well-being and or what you perceive as your general well-being. And anytime that infiltrates, it can create conflict. It creates quite a lot of conflict.
So she definitely puts up with she has to deal with it and know, okay, I'm not going to push a button, or I'm not going to try to force a round peg into a square hole with you, because she knows that maybe that you're having a episode.
Well, it's taken years to really to even get to that level, because
you're just using that ADD thing as an excuse. I need you to blah 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 blah, or whatever. Any spouse in any disagreement with, you kind of go, you can't use that as an excuse. But sometimes it is.
Yeah, and it's been the difficulty has been being able to walk that line. Right?
Yeah,
being able to say
trust is a big part of it.
Say hey, just to give an example without going into the dirty details of our daily life. I forgot to put something away in the kitchen one time, and I was like, you could have told me 5 times to do it. I'm not always going to remember that, because I'm thinking about 5 other things over here, or other things that I see as priority or what have you. And I say, you've got to remember I'm ADD. And she's like, don't
That's
use that.
no excuse. I told you like 4 times. And you're like, yeah, but I had the chicken going and I had the rice going. And I was trying to do all this. And then when it came time, I wanted to eat while it was hot. And then when I went to clean it, I just forgot.
Yeah.
It's true. It happens.
Yeah.
I can relate to that one.
Yeah.
And now in the job, we talk about in the workforce, when in the workforce, it wasn't until a colleague of mine said, she was on ADD medicine, and she goes, I'm pretty sure you're ADD. I'm like, no way. And she goes, well, your son and I, the way I see, you kind of get distracted. And I was. We would, instant message was a way of communicating to our staff members and so forth. And, I would start working on a project that required me to really focus. And then somebody would bloop, bloop, and I'd be like, I'd reply to them and bloop, bloop. And I was never able to get focused. And, we'll turn off the sound. Well, they might need me. And once I was diagnosed and put on Vyvanse, I was able to, it is a speed, but it slowed my brain down, which is the weird part of it.
Right,
That's when you know that you're a candidate, is when you take speed and it slows your brain down.
Yeah, I know.
Like, how could that work? But it's true. It kind of syncs up. I think of it as like your brain's doing this, and you give it the right kind of thing, and now it's working in like a machine, right? And you can focus. So I was able to ignore those distractions, finish my task and methodically go, okay, let me now spend the next 10 minutes going back to see maybe who have reached out to me, and I'll reply to them, and then get that, maybe get up and go to the bathroom, get a cup of coffee, come back down, and get back into my focus. And it was just a way for me, being on the medicine, I was able to compartmentalize things and really not just be winging it.
Right.
And just being like, okay, so yeah, I'll get to you now. And you over there, and then, wait a minute, what time is it? Oh, I got to go. I mean, just that kind of basket case kind of feeling that I apparently was dealing with all this time.
Right.
Never really, when it's you don't really think, like, well, until somebody comes up and says, you might want to look into this, and it's really changed my life.
Right. Yeah, I went through a similar process also. I particularly when it came to family and in-laws and stuff like that, because somebody would say something to me, and I because of ADD and because of difficulty with social issues, sometimes I'm not able to read immediately whether or not they're joking with me or whether they're actually criticizing me and attacking me.
I can relate.
And so when I went on the Vyvanse, somebody would say something, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay." Or I'd be like,
that was meant as a joke, and I took it seriously, or I took it as a joke, or the opposite. Where I can't even. I took it as a joke when it wasn't, or I took it as serious when it was a joke.
Right, yeah. So I was able to respond a little bit better without jumping on people or getting really instantly or immediately pissed off. So.
People like that are just quick on their toes, and they're able to spew out stuff. I had a boss that way once, and it was just, he could just totally grasp people's deal, and he would throw it my way, and I would be like, I can't determine if you're joking, if that was sarcastic or not. And so I've always been the guy, when somebody tells a joke, oh, I got a joke for you, this is a good one. So the preacher goes into the blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to be forced to laugh, because if I really pay attention, I'm not going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they go, and then the bartender said, "That's no duck," and I'm going,
yeah. Your brain is like doing this thing; it's jumping around, like trying to figure it out.
But I can't wait for my brain to do it, so I just instantly go, "Yeah, the duck. Yeah, that's a good one." I don't get the joke. Tell me the joke. And we do that. I think a lot of us do that. We, appease one another by not choosing to stop and go, I don't get that, because it's just embarrassing. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
exactly.
do you have anything similar to that, where you have to let it sink in and don't always need to react right away?
Well, especially if there's something like directions, like you're going to go down this road, and there's going to be a Texaco, and so you're going to make a right at the Texaco, and then there's this street called Oak Street, and then you're going to, then it's the second house on the right, but you're going to drive past anything that's more than 2 steps.
Dude, you and me, I'd never realized that about you, because in school, Trisha Armstrong, if you're listening, thank you. I sat next to Trisha Armstrong at Aldridge Elementary School, and the teacher would say, okay, so the lesson is you're gonna get out chapter 1, and you're gonna read the first 3 pages, and then you're going to write some notes about those 3 pages and what you found significant. Then you're gonna go to chapter 7, and you're gonna read through those, and right then I hear and she goes, all right, get ready, and you can begin when you're ready, class. And I'm like, what did she just say? What are we supposed to do? And everybody's heads go down, and just doing this and writing, and I'm looking around at everybody going, oh shit, where do I start?
Yeah.
Were you that guy too?
Oh yeah.
And I would say, where do we start? And she would just like, okay, over here, chapter 1, and then just write down what you thought was important out of that chapter, and then when you're done with that, then I'll tell you the rest of it.
Yeah. Anything that required more
Long
than 2 steps.
strings of stuff. Yeah.
So imagine taking that into the workplace, right?
Yeah.
And you're at a meeting with the boss man, and you're just like, okay.
And then they start telling you, I want you to do this, and I want you to do that, and you're like, okay, hold on, this, and then this. Okay, hold on, and then that. Okay, then what? And they're going, really?
Yeah.
I have to really. You can't just get it.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Well, I often when it came to meetings and stuff, I didn't take anything with me. I would just go in and just try to see how much I could absorb.
Yeah.
On my own, and then if I had questions later, I would ask the questions later.
Sure.
Instead of
stopping
the
right.
boss.
You let them finish.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Hang on a second,
Right.
Mr. CEO.
And everybody in the class is like, oh God, Hank. More people now who might have issues, whether it be attention deficit or anxiety. There's things that can be done that you couldn't do beforehand. And a lot of people are on drugs now.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people have to have their medicine.
The meds can be very helpful.
Now we'll talk. We'll kind of queue up a future episode with this Rusty gentleman with the biofeedback, unconventional learning that might allow folks to not have to be on medicine. You're a candidate of that. You're an example of not having to be on meds. And do you feel like you're cured?
That's a great question, and I think about it from time to time because I especially think about it when I'm panicking, walking around the house, going, "Where is my phone? Where are my glasses? Where did I put the thing?" Right, and I was like, and I go, "Oh God, I forgot about that important thing that I was supposed to do today," or I missed an appointment. I actually missed an appointment for my dog for her annual checkup about a week ago. The clinic's calling me going, are you coming in today? And I'm like, oops.
So
totally forgot.
So
Sorry.
you're not cured.
It's no.
No, it's still it's learning to live with it
I tell you what is
and
fixed.
identifying with it.
I tell you what did get fixed is the anxiety about it.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, the phone is, losing the phone in the couch or whatever is kind of an anxious thing.
Yeah.
But it's not like debilitating.
Crippling anxiety.
Right. Where you freeze.
What is it like? Tell me what it's like when you're experiencing extreme anxiety. Is it panic attack type thing where you're frozen?
Well, that's what I used to have that. Yeah. I used to have that, especially in my 20s. Because, I went off, I left school, I graduated with a BA. And then I came back home for a while. I tried to live in an apartment for a while. I held down this job or that job, tried to do creative stuff. And my parents were older. My sister had diabetes. There's all these factors, right? I drove a crappy car. So many factors, so much input was all this negative and anxious input was coming in, and so I would.
Was it the chain
I
of
would freeze
and
get
I
panicky.
got a crappy car. I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm not making the money I want to make, and my face is breaking out, and you just start to spiral, and you can't. One good thing couldn't bring you out of it.
I'll tell you so the first time I did biofeedback, because I'm glad you mentioned this and you asked that question because it's bringing up a whole new story, but when in my 20s, I was having lots of anxiety problems, so I went to a Doc in the Box over in South Arlington, and after I'd gone there 3 or 4 times or whatever for blood pressure, essentially that was what I was going in for. My blood pressure was really high. She didn't want to give me meds, right? Because she's like, some of this has got to be on the side of coping skills. And all the meds are going to do is just going to mask the symptoms. Right? So you got to take care of the issues of the problems.
Yeah,
the level of anxiety, what's causing the anxiety first. I was like, okay, all right, fine. I'm cool with that. And then about the third time I went, she said, there's a program going on at UTA, the University of Texas at Arlington right now, in the School of Social Work, and there's a lady there that's doing biofeedback. This was in 1993, 1990,
Wow.
1992,
Well
1993.
back.
Yeah. And it's what Rusty, who we've mentioned before, that's where he got his
Training.
original training from. Yeah, it's from this lady at UTA. So ironically, what comes around goes around. I guess I was part of a program that was just in the budding stages. I think the concept originally came around in the 1970s, and then UTA was able to pick up a program for it in the 1990s. For the UTA program, the subject, I think, was just talking to somebody, right? And they were just answering questions. It wasn't like therapy,
Tell me how you feel.
Yeah. Tell me about when your father beat you, that
Right.
kind of stuff. But that was a separate component to it.
Yeah.
Right? You took the wires off,
Yeah.
and you talked to somebody different. This one, so the first day I go in, Doug, this young lady is young social work student is like wiring me up, and she's putting receptors on my back, around my neck.
Are you sure do they have big heads and big eyes? Were the people that were putting this on you, were they skinny and they didn't talk?
There was no probe, and there was nothing below here.
Okay, I just want to make sure that these are humans that were wiring you up.
She was human. She was
Okay.
She was a relatively attractive young lady, but she's wired me up, and she's like, okay, I got to take some numbers now, and she's like looking at the numbers, and she's going, there's something wrong here. So she's like,
that's great.
She rules the stuff.
Something ain't right here.
Yeah. She rules
That
the
can't
stuff.
be. That can't. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
All right, hold on here.
Yeah. So she does it. So she does it a third time. She's like, wait a minute. Can you relax your back? And I was like, how do I do that?
Relax your back. You were just so tense.
I was apparently doing this
You're
the whole
clenching.
time. So then I got, I go to talk to the actual therapist dude. This was a dude, and he's like, okay, can you picture yourself in a quiet place?
Okay. So like
Right.
Well,
So he says, yeah. So he said, name the place, and I said, well, it's probably Narragansett Bay in Rhode Island. That was the last time I felt relaxed at the. So then he's like, okay, so how's that working for you? And I said, well, I gotta find the money to buy the plane ticket, and then I gotta get on the plane, and then I have to catch a bus to Rhode Island.
all these.
I'm like, no, I can't do that.
Can the beach come to me? Because I just am getting stressed thinking about
And the
it.
guy's like, oh, no.
This guy's this is a good one. The doctors with Hank are going, oh, Henry DeMond? Yes. Very familiar with Henry. Very unique case we have here with Henry. What did you do? Well, man, you should have seen him when he came in to see me. Yeah, well, hey, what are you going to do? It is what it is.
So when those two things happened, I was like, well, I got to work on this. And so one of the things, and I don't know if you've ever done this before.
I'm still trying to get the See, ADD.
Yeah.
I'm like the connecting of negative thoughts.
Right. Yeah.
You've had them. I've had them.
Yeah. Yoga. Have you ever done yoga?
I've tried to do. So no.
Okay.
But I've tried to do meditation a little bit. I know that there is. I just have not forced myself to do it. It's a discipline.
Yes, you got to wrap your head around the idea. Right.
But I totally get it. Wake up and it's not just my fuchsia. What is it? my what
chakra?
Yeah. Yeah. And you hear the guy's voice. You are relaxed. Feel your hair down to your toes. That's it.
Yeah.
Relax. Repeat after me. Say any word that feels comfortable. Shkamala rina mokolo malanika shalapuka.
Cheeseburger.
And then you're like, oh crap, I gotta go to work. Wait a minute. Oh, nah, forget about work.
Yeah.
This is all about
Right.
spiritual light. Follow the light, go into the light. Oh, that's a different thing. But I do think there's something to it.
Yeah, okay. So you're asking about, you keep asking me about the anxiety spiral. Yes, it all of that stuff contributes. It's mental, but your body reacts to it. Right?
You have to head it off. I mean, there's almost like you're going, when they say, smile more, because smiling actually makes you, it'll force your brain into being happy. And I'm like, bullshit. I'm pissed off. I'm depressed. And you're saying if I go around like this, that I'm going to all of a sudden be happy. But it's true. I think there is when somebody, the first person that says, how's it going today? There's your moment. It's going great. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's going really shitty.
Yeah.
But if you go, you've met people. God, I mean, it's going all right. I'm still breathing. Could be better, but how are you? And it's almost like, are you doing this for attention or because your mind is in this life sucks. I'm just breathing. That's all I'm doing. I don't know why I'm here. I hate my life. But if you were to go, I'm doing great. How are you doing? And they go, oh, I'm doing pretty good. And that's good. And you have a conversation. Just after that, you actually said, I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. How are you doing?
Yeah.
It kind of helps
Yeah.
prop you up into a foundation to say, okay. And the next person goes, hey, Doug, how's it going? Hey, Mike, how's it going? How are you doing? All right. Now I've kind of gone, all right. I think I can do this.
Yeah. But there's another Indian word, mantra. Right? There's a mantra that I write down every morning, and it essentially says, today's going to be a great day. It's going to be better than yesterday. And in fact, the better than yesterday thing is part of the ADD community now. Is actually they stole it. They stole it from me. Anxious about that now. No, but I think it's a great mantra. Whether I got it from them or they got it from me, I don't know. But
let's just say that you had the idea.
I believe I had it. I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now. But
okay.
But yeah, I'll write it down every morning. And so like when I lose my phone, like 10 minutes later after I've written this down, I lose my phone and I start to get freaky about it. I'm like, oh, you know what? Today was supposed to be better than yesterday.
Right.
So, it can't be worse than yesterday. So
it's that stacking of stuff that helps get your self-esteem, your confidence going. I think meditation is a step like that. Exercise, when you are spiraling out of control and you can't find a positive thought to save your life. And, people go, well, you're not suicidal, are you? I mean, you joke around, put a gun to I'm trying to do whatever I can so I don't put a gun to my head. Those are sometimes little signs. And if you're, you say it out loud and then you start to go, I might actually be better. I got insurance and, I don't know if it's covered with suicides or not. So I'll have to figure out a way. I mean, you do think about, I have, would I be better dead than alive when I'm really down in the dumps, when I can't see the forest of the trees, when I can't imagine life being pleasurable ever again? You're desperate and I've had to learn to just say, keep breathing.
Yeah.
Today's not the day. Tomorrow's another day.
Right.
And you know what? Tomorrow might be another bad day. But guess what? Keep breathing. And eventually you're going to stack good days on top of one another. It's just, even if it's just random. But just being patient and knowing that you're not alone. A lot of people feel this way. A lot of people go, how can I get better? It's been a week and I haven't had blah happen yet. I've been waiting for. I've been looking for a job. I can't get out of this funk, and it'll never, the words never and always. Don't ever say never, and don't ever say always. I always feel this way, or nobody ever, they never. Talk to positive people. Yeah.
We talked about a lot of things. We've covered a lot of things, and it's just finding the right combination, what works for you, what you can afford, what, there's some of the things that we've talked about, all the way, yoga doesn't cost you anything. I mean, you just do stretches and breathe, right?
YouTube.
yeah. But then biofeedback,
That's when you want to
there.
take it to the next level. When you really have made your mind up, I'm doing something about this,
Right.
and I'm going to pay for it, and it's going to be worth it. And you're open-minded, and you allow it to take hold.
Right, and meds kind of sit somewhere in between.
Yeah.
They cost, but it may be more costly to keep getting angry at your job, right?
And I think that what makes the world go round are different people, and we're all different. And when you compare yourself to other people and what they're doing, and you can't help having envy, or maybe they could come across that way, but they're really not happy. You don't know, so don't base your core acceptance of yourself based on what you see around you. Just know that, hey, okay, if you think I'm weird, great, I'm weird. Embrace it, and try not to be somebody you're not. Find the best you, and know that it's not going to be like anybody else. And I think realizing that, people can kind of find, okay, I don't have to be like that person or that person. I can role model, I can have a mentor, but I can't be that person. So I have to just, surround myself around good people, positive people, and when you find yourself starting to spiral, whether you have a bad day or two, or a week or two, that you can find whatever mechanism it is to stop. Go for a run, go for a swim, play the guitar, call a friend, listen to some music, and all those things are putting pause on your life. Pause. I'm having a crappy day. I'm thinking bad things. Pause. But what about pause?
Yeah.
My mom, my kid, pause. This is me time.
Yeah.
I have to spend, if it's 5 minutes or an hour, I've got to get myself regrouped,
readjusted. Yeah.
and then boom, okay, I'm good. But denying that and just constantly going and not carving out that time that you need can be a bad thing.
Right. Or listening to other people say, "Hey, get over it," or
rub some dirt on it.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good way to wrap up the show for this time. And thanks for being here again, Hank. And we'll see what we can come up with the next podcast.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of stuff we've been talking about, so I'm excited. All right. Well, y'all, take care. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you.